Well, let's head straight for the bottom, shall we? And talk about this week's wrestling shows. And since we last left you, the events on television have been AEW on Wednesday night, the 28th of September, and SmackDown on September 30th. So going in chronological order, we come to Wednesday night first, where we got to stay up late. Oh, boy. What's going on now? Here with as Tony, is somebody going to do a welfare check on Tony? Has he lost his mind?
If you're asking me what's going on, I think I could confidently say Chris Jericho has a bigger voice in the makeup of that show than ever before.
Oh, you can confidently think that.
I could say that with extreme confidence that Chris Jericho has more of a voice in the makeup of that show than ever before, but I also think some other people do. I think Bryan Danielson does, maybe for the first time in AEW, really. MJF clearly does, because all of his segments reek of MJF. No one else is going to tell him what to do, I don't think. So I think the story of this week's show was Chris Jericho's brand of Monday Night Raw being on Wednesday night. And also, I think it's now become apparent even to diehard AEW fans that the women's division is a disaster.
Woo! Well, let's jump into it. The opening segment was the Jericho Appreciation Society in-ring promo celebration of Chris Jericho becoming the Ring of Honor World Champion. And they all came out in purple suits. Who's got not only the wardrobe budget, but who makes this shit? They just said, we're all going to wear purple, and some poor seamstress somewhere has to whip all this stuff up.
They don't decide that. One person decides that.
Well, you know what I mean. And, I mean, from the start, Cool Hand Luke imitated Roman Reigns, appreciate us. So we remind everybody that we're the secondary program. We're the big stars on the other channel. And then they bring to the forefront the fucking pizza guy again. But this time, instead of 10 seconds of a pre-tape where it was embarrassing but not killing anything important, this time this segment was allegedly important, and this fucking emaciated prick killed it. And by the way, did you find out? We come to find out now on the internet, the pizza-making wrestler is one of these right-wing anti-vaccine fucking lunatics, which is obviously where he's found common ground with Chris Jericho.
Yeah, there was some story someone sent us, and I probably should have read it, but I didn't care enough because it's the pizza schmuck, that apparently he fired his whole roster when they had problems with him. He was the promoter, and they're like, wait, we have a problem with what you're doing. He's like, okay, you're all fired.
Yeah, they didn't want to get vaccinated, or they wanted to get vaccinated, or he didn't want to get vaccinated, or they got mad at him for saying, fuck it, you're right. Who? Again, we shouldn't have to spend this much time on this, but they brought this comedy fuck into this promo where the crowd is chanting. Here's supposedly one of the top heels and his group of stooges, and the crowd's chanting, we want pizza. And then they let Anna Jay talk again. She's trying to sound like Vicky Guerrero. And finally, the whole point of this thing was Jericho comes out and gives Garcia, our friend Danny Garcia, a purple Gilligan hat. And he throws it down and turns around and fucking punches the pizza guy and says he's had enough and he's got to get something off his chest. Now, bear in mind that for the rest of what we're about to tell you, the pizza guy took a bump from the one punch by Daniel Garcia and went down and laid there and didn't move. And nobody was checking on him. Nobody in the group was even looking at him. It was just a sight gag. So, and the director was trying, obviously, to shoot around him, because they didn't bother to tell the technical crew they were going to do comedy at a high level. So they're trying, but whenever they'd have to get a wide shot of everybody in the ring, there's this fucking nitwit still laying there, not moving a muscle, when they're talking back and forth trying to do this angle that nobody gives a shit about anyway. So he visually killed the whole goddamn thing. And then Jericho stops Garcia from getting whatever off his chest and says, make the wrong decision, I'm going to have to take you out. Now, are you a sports entertainer or a pro wrestler? This is fucking ridiculous. And what do they call them? The people who don't have sex, but it's against their will that they're not having sex. The incels in the crowd that think that this is a thing that adults would argue over.
What did you say it is? People who don't have sex, but say that again?
Well, they're not having sex, but it's against their will that they're not having sex. They'd really like to have sex if it was up to them, if they could have their druthers.
Okay.
But they're not having it because they can't, right? That's what an incel is. I don't fucking know. But anyway, whoever's cheering for this has never heard an adult argument. So Garcia starts to answer when here comes Bryan Danielson out. And I wrote, Jesus Christ, every star in this company has Garcia hanging around their neck like a fucking albatross in The Old Man and the Sea. So Danielson starts talking about Garcia and says he can do whatever he wants to do. He can be a wrestler or a sports entertainer, whatever. And finally, they argued over the hat. The fake wrestler's doing comedy. Garcia's doing a long promo. The fans are cheering for silliness. And that was the first 15 minutes of this program. 15 minutes for this. And then Jericho's in the main event against Bandito, the household name in wrestling.
He stole the ratings. Took you a second? All right, thank you. I still have it, folks.
You still got it. It was a depth charge. It took, yeah, we'll find out about that in a minute. But I mean, what the?
It's terrible. It's all terrible.
This was so self-indulgent that he's got a group of uninteresting fucking stooge jackoffs dressing like him, like they're all in various, Clockwork Orange rejected costumes. And the sports entertainer versus pro wrestler thing, my God. I don't know. Can we move on?
I just want to say a couple things. One, I know a few people have caught on, but when they came out on the stage, it was apparent Anna Jay cannot stop making faces. Whenever she's on camera, watch her. She can't sit still. She's making faces the whole time. Other than that, I just want to say, once again, this is the problem with Chris Jericho Unleashed. Because whatever is in his head is learned from his time in WWE. And his ideas are even worse than those. And they're all self-indulgent. They're all about building Chris Jericho and protecting Chris Jericho. And they're never good. They're the worst segments on the show. And they fit on Monday Night Raw 10 years ago. They don't fit on a progressive, happening show now. And I wish Tony Khan could put his foot down, but he won't. He's a big Chris Jericho mark. And I also wish right now there was more star power there. Because Chris Jericho's in the best position of leverage he's ever been in AEW.
That's true. They've got to. I mean, it's down to like 3 names people have heard of. So that he's important. I just wish he'd step up and act like it instead of his goddamn, like you said, the Monday Night Raw sports entertainment reject bullshit. But after we saw these guys for 15 minutes, we go to the announcers. They billboard the show coming up. We go back to the ring, and it's Danielson against Daddy Mack. So they didn't even leave the ring. And again, Danielson's great with everything he does, but why watch this? Danielson went over. Did I miss anything?
I'm going to reiterate what I said last time. I think Danielson is less creative in the ring right now than he's maybe ever been on a national stage. I don't find his matches exciting anymore. Too much of AEW is built around the cheap pop and just pleasing the people in that room, whether it makes sense or not. And I think that damages some of these matches. And again, I don't need to see guys trading fucking blows in the middle of the ring, in the middle of the match ever again.
Did he do it with this job guy too?
Well, I don't think he's a job guy, A. B, I think he did it. I don't even remember. But he's been doing it every match. I'm going to say it here because I didn't care about the match. They've made me not care about Bryan Danielson. He's made me not care about himself because of just, he allows all this to happen, but the booking of him has been atrocious. I don't care about the guy right now.
Well, I got news for you. It's going to get worse from here. So they did a package last week, MJF's business that he did, and then here comes Wheeler Useless storming to the ring. And I'm thinking, is this a rib? We're going to get more of the... What MJF is doing with Useless would be good if Useless was a star. But he's not. He looks like a guy using the internet at the library. And that's the problem here. They're doing big wrestling angles with talent that can't carry the ball, or that nobody's going to give a shit about, or that the only possible people that are going to care are the ones that are already there because they love everybody. But when they love everybody in the building because they bought a ticket and left their homes and gone to see this on purpose. But people on TV are going, what the fuck is this? So.
But hey, look, that's not the reaction Tony wants. Tony cares about what people say on message boards, and Tony cares about what people say on Twitter. That's what he really cares about.
Well, Useless goes out and calls out MJF because he's mad that MJF roughed up Shivani last week. And again, he promos like he's over. And if he just looked different and was indeed over and was a name and it... Anyway, here comes MJF.
And that was his hometown.
And he's in his hometown, Philadelphia. And finally, once MJF got to work, they were with Useless a little bit better because he ripped Philly, ripped Shivani. You know, he backhandedly kind of put Useless over, which you have to do because if you told the truth, then everybody just turned the TV off. And MJF finally got the shut the fuck up chant and then buried Joe Frazier and the Phillies. Have you noticed they're bleeping shit now, finally? Thankfully. Yuta fired up. The last of this promo, if it was anybody but him, it would have been good, but it's still fucking Yuta. And then the ass boys come out to back MJF up, and MJF agrees to face Yuta next week in Washington, D.C. And then MJF leaves and the Guns do his catchphrase. If they're using Yuta as just a cannon fodder to put heat on MJF, I'll work with it. But if this is a highly competitive match and it looks like that Yuta belongs with MJF in the ring, then we're all doomed. We're all doomed. What'd you think about the promo?
I didn't like it as much as you did. And I said it a few times already. I'll say it again. Garcia, and especially Yuta, are Tony Khan's Eric Watts. And especially Yuta, because it just doesn't feel like he's ready. It doesn't feel like it's time. It felt like, all right, I'm going to go out there and do my first real big promo. I'm ready. Here I go. Like, it didn't feel natural to me at all. MJF was great. He's always great. But he needs someone to work with. Hopefully this ends at the next event and then MJF moves on to something and someone else. But Yuta's a talented guy, but they're pushing him at a point where he's not ready for this yet. At least I don't think so.
And say, now that's you say, well, I like the promo better than you did. I've been watching a lot of WWF promos lately. And Yuta, the promo he did, because of just the fact that he had some emotion and wasn't just reciting scripted verbiage, would have probably been in the upper 10 percentile of WWF promos these days. Now, grading on an overall historical curve, it still sucked, but nevertheless. So then they had a match that was very interesting. Did I hear this correct, Brian? They have the match Juice Robinson versus Jon Moxley, and if Juice Robinson wins, then he gets Jon Moxley next week for the title.
Yes, what'd they call it? A championship challenger match or something?
Whatever the fuck. Has Juice Robinson ever wrestled on this program before?
Before I say no, I know you and I saw him somewhere once, and I can't imagine where else it would have been, so possibly once.
So this guy just wanders in out of nowhere and gets a match against the world champion, where if he beats the world champion, then he gets another match the next week against the world champion for the world title. Because Juice Robinson is supposed to be somebody in Japan, right?
Again, I haven't seen too much of him. I've heard good things about him, but he is a foreign star for New Japan Pro Wrestling.
What I'm saying is that's the only reason why that Tony Khan or anybody else would give this guy a match against the world champion competitively in his first appearance on television, or the first one we can recall, is because he's supposed to be a big deal in Japan. Nobody knows who the fuck he is. He looked like Adam Page cosplaying as a Hell's Angel when he came to the ring. But again, this was an indie match. And even before they'd established who Juice Robinson is or what the fuck's going on, Robinson jumps Moxley on the floor before the bell, fights him on the floor, then rolls him into the ring. The bell rings start the match, and then all the action stops. And then Moxley goes back out to the floor and starts beating old Juice Boy up on the floor and throws him over a table. It was every bad indie match ever again. They took the turns with the shitty forearms. Juice Robinson's look really bad. Then they worked some spots in quicksand. Then they went back to the floor and went to the break. When they came back from the break, Moxley was bleeding. Imagine that. He must have had a pap smear during the break. They were still fighting on the floor, and when they came back from the break, I assume they just never left. Moxley did a dive, more indie shit. Juice Robinson hits Christian's old unprettier finish for a 2 count. Then Juice goes for some kind of move, but fucked it up and fell on his ass, I guess. And Moxley stomped him and got Inoki's arm breaker and tapped him out. A rotten match with an abrupt finish featuring a guy that the average person at home has no fucking clue who he is or where he came from.
And it's sad because he showed personality. You know, if he was built up over a few weeks, someone would care about him getting a title match beyond whoever watches him already in New Japan.
I don't know. I saw his work. I'm not sure after a couple weeks anybody would...
He's in there with Moxley. Moxley works one match. The Moxley match.
I didn't see anything earth-shaking about Juice Robinson. Let's put it that way. Maybe...
Well, he has a fun name. Juice.
Maybe they should team him up with Pockets.
Juice and Juice?
Yeah.
The Juicy Express?
The Juicy Express. Did I miss any greatness in this contest?
No, of course you didn't. Right. You didn't miss any greatness on this episode in Philadelphia. Poor Philadelphia.
Okay, so poor Philadelphia. Why did they get so put upon like this? So Moxley wins, right? Here comes the music, and here comes Hangnail Adam Page to the ring, and he has a face-off with Moxley. And again, you've got 2 baby faces. Tony always backs himself in this corner where he has no choice but to have 2 baby faces standing there staring at each other over his world title, but at least this time he has an instigator. MJF was up in the skybox, and he's going to cash his chip in Cincinnati. Apparently, Paige and Moxley are going to fight each other in Moxley's hometown. And then MJF plans to cash in. But Yuta shows up behind MJF in the skybox, and they have a big fight with security. And that's, I guess, mainly where I was saying, if they were doing all this stuff they're doing with Yuta with a star, this would be great shit. I can see
Ricky Starks.
Well, but I'm just saying the skybox fight and up there, that had elements of Steve Austin and The Rock in the Attitude Era. It's not the angle that's bad. It's the subpar talent that they put into them.
Ricky Starks and MJF would be good.
But anything would be better than Yuta. Although I don't fucking know, actually. We'll get to Starks in a minute. I don't know what's going on here. But anyway, then here comes Saraya. I'm thinking, obviously WWE trademarked her name, but I'm thinking, what would they have done if WWE hadn't trademarked their name? Would they have had yet another Paige? Adam Page? Fucking, what's his name?
Ethan Page.
Enid?
Not
Enid Page?
Enid Page, really?
Enoch Page?
There's a name you don't hear anymore.
And then Page. I mean, so she starts the promo. I'm back. Okay, welcome back from the crowd. I will create change in this division. And the crowd chants, this is your house. This is your house. And then she says she's nervous.
I thought it was Swerve's house.
Well, it's anybody's house that happens to be standing there. That's why everybody's got the keys. And so she's rusty, but here's the thing. Can Paige talk? I've seen very little Paige. And obviously, the last time that she was in the business, it's been 3 or 4 years, right? I don't know that we were watching the programming on a regular basis at that point. So the point is, if she's not rusty, if she's not nervous, can Paige do a good promo? Do you remember?
I remember her being pretty good in the ring when she wrestled. But I was never a fan of her on the mic. Now, to be fair, other people did like her on the mic. Other people really got into her as the GM. Other people were really into the way WWE has booked and used some of these women. I personally thought good in the ring. I was never a big fan of her on the mic.
Well, in that case, she ain't going to get any better than this, I guess. But somebody off camera, I guess some production assistant, floor director, was rushing her to bring the women out because she then said, well, don't wrap me up. I'll go as long as I want. Oh, I guess let's bring the women out. Here they come. And out came Toni Storm, Athena, Sky Blue, Willow Nightingale, and someone else, and I missed the name.
And they were all put together by Stokely Hathaway, and they're calling themselves The Firm. Just a random bunch of people put together to walk out. What was that?
Well, I'm like, is this the whole division? Except for Britt Baker's group. Where's Ruby Soho? I thought of her. But anyway, Saraya starts talking to Toni Storm, but then here comes Britt Baker and Reba and Jamie Hayter. And I'm thinking that Saraya was supposed to introduce all these girls one at a time because she said, let me introduce them one at a time. So that was a clue. But then she got to Toni Storm, and before they even went anywhere else, here comes the heels because this has already gone a while, and other things on this program have apparently taken forever. So Saraya says Britt's name rhymes with shit, but they bleeped that one too. This badly illustrated why there needs to be an announcer or a show host or some authority figure running the interviews and moving things along, expediting the process. When you've got green talent that's not used to doing television, and or you've got some of these talents may not be green, but you can't say that they've ever worked under any administration where they would have done television strictly and by the book and keeping an eye on times and things like that. Britt Baker wouldn't have done that. Hayter wouldn't have done it. I guess Athena and Storm have been to the WWF, but nevertheless, there needs to be somebody running these interviews to keep this thing moving along and remind people of what they forgot and fucking re-engage people when they start wandering. Because when they let the talent go out there and just do their own shit, it's like the South Park wrestling episode where they think they're emoting and everybody else is rolling their fucking eyes. So Britt Baker brings Serena out, and somehow they set up a lumberjack match for the interim women's title between Storm and Serena, and it didn't sound like a lot of people were thrilled at that. And then they had the match, which Toni Storm won, and Brian, from the top of the promo to the bottom of the match, this was 22 minutes on national television devoted to what I just talked about in 90 seconds.
This was one of the worst segments again, going from the beginning to the end, in the history of AEW. It was horrible. Those fans in Philadelphia reacted to the women's division the way everyone else is. People are popping for Paige or Saraya because they're happy to see her. Let's see where this goes. Once again, she didn't touch anyone. I don't even think she took a physical. Everyone saying she wasn't cleared. Did she even take a physical? That's
Has
what
somebody
I'd like to know.
taken her temperature?
We will find out, but the promo
Somebody
was horrible.
said that she and Xavier Woods and that Brad Maddox are going to be the next trios champion.
Will you stop
got
it?
To be able to. Well, that's what somebody said on Twitter.
Nobody said. Will you behave yourself?
Somebody did say that.
Who said that?
Somebody on Twitter.
Of course. Well, what I was going to say
get their goddamn driver's license.
I just saw something the other day. I hate to bring this up, but now you made me think of it. Someone sent me something the other day. Hey, did you see this? And I looked at it. I said, I don't know what this is. And then they spelled it out. There was a picture of Brad Maddox with some woman, and she was talking about, apparently his wife is a marriage counselor who talks about being married to her husband for like 15 years. Meanwhile, he was filmed, whatever. Funny things going on.
That's a gimmick. That's a gimmick also because he can't have been married for 15 years. He's only like fucking in his early 30s to begin with. He was at OVW 10 years ago. As I recall, I believe I saw him.
Well, anyway,
but no, he's some kind of it's like, you know, the B-roll shots they get. There's a guy and his girlfriend walking down the beach. He's an actor playing that part apparently in advertising or whatever.
I saw the previous part he played, and I don't need to see any more. I guess the point is, let's go back to what we were talking about here. I don't know why you decided to go down this road, but the promo was horrible.
Yeah,
the only person here that was truly over, again, Saraya is getting a reaction right now because people are happy to see her. Jamie Hayter. We've been saying it for a while. The people have caught up. Jamie Hayter, she's still being held back. They had a few moments where they could have turned her on Britt. They've waited. Now the moment's here. They got to do something sooner rather than later. But the whole division's a mess. Jamie Hayter's really good. Who's she supposed to wrestle? Who? Thunder Rosa when she comes back? Serena Deeb? The fans have not really reacted well to Serena Deeb. All the other women who just bounced out we've never really seen on TV before? Right, what was that? It was like, here's a woman you know and other people just bouncing out to the ring. Show us the women on the roster. We've seen the women's roster. Where was Jade? Where were the ones who were presented as stars? They weren't out there for this segment. I know a lot of people hate to hear this, but the women's division in AEW should be a separate spin-off show/brand. And they should focus on just one thing. It kills the show. It kills the ratings, usually for the segments. The fans sit there in silence. It's not productive to the wrestling company. It's more just making everyone else feel better because there's an equal, or not even equal, they don't even give an equal portion of the show. There's a portion of the show assigned to the less popular form of wrestling. It doesn't make much sense, and it's killing the show.
I got to disagree. I got high hopes for Willow Nightingale. All right.
Who knows? We haven't really seen her. I mean, who knows? Maybe she is good.
No, none of them. No.
Well, Hater's good. Hater's good.
I'm playing. Hater's all right. I don't hate Hater. I'll tell you what I do hate. Tony Schiavone be in the back again with the interchangeable underneath talent that never get a chance to do anything except argue with each other while Tony's in the middle of them. Private Party and Butcher and Baker and Andre Olio and Jose, and everybody's arguing and nobody cares or understands what they're fucking saying. And then Matt Hardy comes in and tells Private Party he understands he did bad things in the past, but he'll be waiting when the storm ends for them. Jesus Christ. So now Big money Matt Hardy, crooked Matt Hardy, I cheated these guys when I signed them to a contract. Matt Hardy is now a babyface and wants to make amends. Do these people ever wrestle? I'm not advocating for them to wrestle on this program we got to watch, but they just stand in the back and argue with each other because Tony is too nice to just say, I don't need you people anymore.
Other than his ability to make people turn off the TV, what is Matt Hardy adding to anything in AEW right now? Didn't you not groan when all of a sudden he's out there with Private Party again? We have to relive this? This?
Long-term storytelling. They've been telling this story for 3 years. We still don't understand it. All right. You mentioned Ricky Starks earlier. And we've been high on Ricky Starks and a fan of Ricky Starks. And then all of a sudden, Hobbs turned on him for very little reason, but he's okay. We want to see both these guys used. We love Hobbs. We love Starks. Then they have a pay-per-view match that lasted like 6 minutes, and the end came out of nowhere, and it just blah. And we're like, did somebody get hurt? What happened? Then they have the rematch, which turns out to be a garbage match. You're doing with a guy that broke his neck in your ring, last year, Starks. And they have a garbage match where it's like you can't really tell what the fuck, where they're at, what they can do. And now here's Starks against a job guy in a 1-minute win on television. Again, the ass backwards booking of Tony Khan. Let's start people doing jobs in long main event matches. And then after they've been on TV for 2 years, let's put them in 1-minute squashes. But this was a 1-minute win for Starks, and somehow they fucked that up. I mean, literally it was a fucking headlock and a couple of punches in the corner, a shoot-off spot, and Starks went up and over, hit the ropes, came ready for hit the guy with a spear, and the other guy seemed ready to take it, and they ran right past each other. And then as they ran past each other, both of them sold it like, where the fuck the other guy go? Did you see that?
Yep.
And then Starks just keeps on running, hits the ropes, and comes off the other side and hits him with a spear, and then it's his finish 1, 2, 3. They were running full steam at each other and missed each other. How the fuck does that even happen? Who was on what page? I don't...
Another page?
Another page. So that was Ricky Starks' 1-minute win. Anyway, at that point, here came the Ring of Honor World Championship. And not only, I mean, there's been several generations of fans that had fond memories of Ring of Honor. There was the ones that loved it when it was just the little bitty tiny indie wrestlers doing flipping and scramble matches, that it started out, and then it grew up a little bit, and it was the best indie workers and unsigned guys in the business having hard-hitting matches. And then some people liked it when the fucking Cucamonga kids and the cosplayers took over and held the company hostage. But has Chris Jericho, in the manner in which that he currently conducts himself and or works in the ring, would this Chris Jericho ever have fit since 2002 as the Ring of Honor World Champion?
This version of Chris Jericho?
Yes.
Probably not.
And I saw somebody say, oh, but it's brilliant that they did it because of Jericho's name value to get the Ring of Honor world title over. Oh, Jesus Christ. I agree, put the title on a star so that it will be over, but do you put... Who's your favorite baseball player right now? Brian?
My favorite regular player or pitcher?
Yeah, just regular favorite baseball player. Who plays baseball right now you like?
I really like Pete Alonso, but that's a popular pick.
Okay, should Pete Alonso be the next winner of American Idol?
Oh, God, no. No. He shouldn't even be in the competition.
Okay. Then just because people know who Chris Jericho is doesn't mean he's a choice for Ring of Honor World Champion. He's been the AEW champion. They've established that the AEW title is not the same genre as the Ring of Honor title. Ring of Honor title was always about the young, the hard-hitting, the technical in-ring, fucking kids that could go. And this is just, he's as a heel, he's trying to get heat with the Ring of Honor fans by destroying its legacy and tearing it all down and all that stuff. But what he's doing is he's just making people roll their eyes. At Ring of Honor, now Jericho's got a a title belt from another promotion that doesn't even exist and is not on television, and so he can show it on AEW television. This whole thing is sideways. It's not going to please the Ring of Honor fans that existed, such as those that may be left. And as for the AEW fans, it's another goddamn belt. Everybody in this company has one already. Some people have more than one. So Jericho puts the Ring of Honor title on the line against Bandito, the former Ring of Honor champion, who, from what I have heard and understood, they went insane and signed full-time for a ridiculous amount of money for Sinclair Broadcasting and Ring of Honor's, levels. And again, Ring of Honor, after the Cucamonga Kids left, was taken over by the Lucha guys, and they were trying to go for in-ring action without concentrating on it was the in-ring work that got Ring of Honor over. Not just mindless flipping action, but the work of the guys that took it seriously. So you got Chris Jericho, 50 years old, against a fucking masked lucha guy. My two favorite things. So I skipped ahead to the finish, and guess what? Jericho tapped him out with the walls of Jericho in what I'm sure was a scintillating performance by both men. Did I miss anything, Brian?
No, not really. Bandito got offered a AEW contract after this, apparently.
Oh, I'm sure he did. You get those like you get cars when you go to Oprah Winfrey's TV tapings, don't you? Just everybody gets one. We used to call it a clash of styles, but how is Chris Jericho versus Bandito? How is that a marquee main event match that you would put on national television in the United States of America between 9:40 and 10 p.m. and expect anybody to watch it?
You don't. You're only fooling yourself if you think that, and I can't imagine they're that dumb. You knew people were going to tune out because it's Bandito, and as good as he may be, no one knows who he is. It's just another guy out there with a weird mask against Jericho, who is one of the biggest stars they have right now, but still, he's not pulling people in if he's doing something no one cares about. And if anyone wants a good reason to be mad at CM Punk or mad at Omega and the Bucks, this is it.
There you go.
This is what we're left with now. Chris Jericho running that TV show, and it's horrible. And there's no one who has worked as hard as Chris Jericho to get to this position next to Tony Khan. And he is relishing this, but the program is horrible. His stuff is all sorts of bad. And we'll see where this goes in the weeks ahead, but they need some star power quick, and they need someone else who's going to help out with these segments so it's not Raw reject segments.
He just promoted 16 people to various positions in talent relations just purely to talk to these people and find out if they're grumpy or not, instead of, hey, let's book some good shit and lay some good matches out and teach some guys some things.
AEW is not good right now. It's really not good right now. There's a few things that are good. There are a few people that are good. There are other people that you think are good, but they're never on TV. But the TV is rotten. The booking's horrible. Some of the stuff is so lame, you don't even know how it got on the air. Nothing seems coherent. It's just a complete fucking mess.
So in other words, business as usual. A lot of people are going to say, oh, well, he doesn't have his VPs and he doesn't have pub, but explain the previous 3 years. Anyway, speaking of explaining things, you got some splaining to do. We just talked about this television program. My thought would be that a lot of people started watching it because they hung around from the Big Bang and they lost a ton of people again. And from what I hear, I'm correct in that assumption. Do you have the statistics available?
And again, I know the Big Bang started the galaxy, but I'm not sure if the Big Bang Theory is holding up the way it used to in terms of ratings, but I do have some information here.
Would it be something if AEW killed the Big Bang Theory's ratings?
That would say something about civilization.
If they said, we don't want to watch the Big Bang Theory, we're afraid that we might accidentally run over into AEW and see that accidentally.
The average for this week's rating was 990,000 viewers. down off 1,039,000 a week earlier and 1,175,000 2 weeks before that.
But bigger part of the story is where they start and where they finish, because a couple of weeks ago, they actually had a main event and kept the audience from start to finish, right?
Yes, they did.
Because it was Danielson and Moxley, was it? Or wait, who was it?
Jericho and Moxley.
Jericho and Moxley. So that's a main event. We know who they are.
And we know that people will tune in to see Moxley. Despite what we say about him, we know that people tune in to see him.
Unfortunately, I don't know what the fucking appeal is, but yes, they do. So they gave him a main event. They kept their audience. This week, they didn't give him a main event. And in the middle, between the first and the last, was fucking rotten. So where did those numbers start and where'd they finish?
Yeah, and again, too, you need a good commentating team to hold viewers, and I think that's still something that hasn't been addressed and it won't be addressed, but Taz is the only one out there I would have out there. Excalibur is way too much at this point, and Shivani doesn't say a goddamn thing the whole night. It's all, wow, you're right, or I'm really digging this, it's great to be here, or wow, it's amazing. Nothing. He has no insight.
You know what? You got to do it again. You got to have one of the Arcadian Vanguard minions just transcribe everything that Tony Schiavone says during the course of a match.
I thought about it during 2 different matches this week. I don't remember the matches. I'm like, oh, I wish I was transcribing this. Oh, I wish this was transcribed. It's every match, though. He says nothing. He's literally useless on commentary. He adds nothing. You want to use Schiavone? You like him? He's kind of like your company mascot? Use him as the interviewer. Don't put him on commentary. You're just putting a third guy in the booth for no reason because he doesn't say anything. And that makes the problems with Excalibur worse, and I know a lot of people like Excalibur, but no, you're all wrong. Let me go back to the ratings here. Quarter by quarter breakdown. Quarter 1, and I believe this is from WrestleNomics, let's give credit where it's due. Quarter 1, Jericho Appreciation Society segment, 1,208,000 viewers. For the record, 559,000 in the 18 to 49 demo. Quarter 2, Danielson versus Matt Menard, as well as a build-up video for Juice Robinson versus Moxley, 1,016,000 viewers, down 192,000 off the opening segment. Segment 3, MJF, or quarter 3, I guess technically, MJF and Wheeler Yutta's dual promo, and a few of the other promos, 962,000 viewers, down another 54,000. The final quarter of Hour 1, Moxley versus Juice Robinson with the post-match with Adam Page and the brawl with MJF and Yuta, back up, 1,013,000, 51,000 up from the previous segment. So now we're going into Hour 2, the 9 o'clock hour, quarter 5, the MJF and Yuta fight, a Bandito video, and Soraya's promo, 997,000 viewers, down 16,000. Quarter 6, Toni Storm versus Serena Deeb with the Acclaimed and Keith Lee segment, 975,000 viewers, down an additional 22,000. Quarter 7, various interviews, it says here. I believe the Matt Hardy private party one was one of them. Plus Ricky Starks versus Eli Osum, or Isom, whatever his name is here. 875,000 viewers, down an additional 100,000.
Yeah, and by the way, that was after the girls' segment.
That's right. And quarter 8, the main event for the Ring of Honor World Heavyweight Championship, Chris Jericho versus Bandito, 879,000 viewers, plus 371,000 in the 18 to 49 key demo. So that's down off the 549 to start.
So basically, 320-something thousand people from start to finish decided, fuck it! And they left.
What is a good hemorrhage rate for viewers?
Yeah. My God, I don't think there is a good one, is there? Don't you want more people watching the end than... I mean, that's the way it used to be with a wrestling program. All wrestling programs. More people watched the main event or the last part of the show than watched any other part of the program. That's why Sting and Flair on the first Clash of Champions, what was that? It was a 2.5-hour program. Their quarter did like, what, a 7.8? All of the shows, even in the Attitude Era, I can't remember losing hundreds of thousands of viewers from start to finish. Maybe it happened every once in a while. And I mean, the numbers were a lot bigger. So what am I thinking about? Back in those days, they varied a couple of 100,000 viewers from quarter to quarter just because the numbers were so much bigger overall. But I don't remember any program that WCW ever did or WWF ever did in the Attitude Era or in the 80s or really any time losing 30-35% of its audience over the course of it from start to finish. That's a new phenomenon, isn't it?
I would think so, but let me play devil's advocate with you. There was a hurricane happening. Do you think that is
Stand back.
Stand back.
There's a hurricane coming through.
What about that as something that would affect the viewership? And even with that said, what does that say about the drop-off from segment 1 to segment 8?
Well, no, I don't think the hurricane would have affected the viewership on an ongoing basis. People already knew the hurricane was happening. It wasn't like suddenly after an hour and a half of AEW, oh, geez, we got to check the hurricane now, and 100,000 people go away. The pattern was the same as it's been more often than not on this program, especially recently. Put, Twinkle Toes in his debut, or his return match back in the main event, loses 200,000 or 300,000. Put the 6-man bullshit or the cosplaying wrestlers at the, in the main event segment, lose 300,000 viewers. This is the same thing it's been doing. I don't think the hurricane, I mean, it wasn't like that anybody but the people in Florida. It wasn't like it was crucial that anybody find out at that point what's going on with the hurricane, except the people it was affecting. And you know what? Most of those people probably didn't have any fucking electricity. So they were watching anyway. So no, I don't think they can blame the hurricane.
To talk about a bit of the bigger picture here, people are now starting to notice some of the problems a little more, even though we've been talking about it for a while, but because it's now affecting things that are visible like ticket sales and ratings, people are starting to talk about it more, notice it a little more. Word has gotten out, I believe even Dave Meltzer in The Observer talking about it now. AEW ticket sales have become a problem. They're not selling anymore.
Well,
or as much or as fast as they once were.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like everybody's just saying, oh, geez, take these back. We want our money back. But no, they're going back to towns that used to be an automatic sellout or a great first day, and they're doing, minor percentages of what they did the last time they were in the town. If anybody had treated this like a normal business, then that wouldn't be surprising. But because they've been, blinded by the light, they thought that AEW was somehow impervious or invulnerable to this. It happens after the first time in a market, is a big deal, especially now. Back in the old days, yes, you could build your town. When you opened up a new market for live events, that means you'd been on TV for maybe 12 weeks in that town, and then you start running your live events, and you build the crowd as more people find out about it, as more people know wrestling is back in that town, or more people know that the wrestling TV show is on the air, whatever, you build your crowd. Classic example, Lexington, Kentucky. I was there to see it. First show after 12 weeks of TV did 1,500 people. Second show dropped down to about 1,300 because it wasn't a brand new first one. But then the third one, because the word of mouth started getting around, 2,600. Then they did over 4,000 people. 6 months in, they're doing 5,000 people a show. But with AEW, all that's been reversed. Everybody, every wrestling fan knew this was going to happen. The internet and the buzz and the talk and the advanced publicity and the anticipation. Everybody knew it was going to happen. Still to this day, the first episode of AEW television was the highest rated one. Because everybody wanted to see, everybody for the purpose of this exercise, right? The everybody number is shrinking as we go year by year, but everybody wanted to see what it was going to look like. And then they did. And then the diehards that are going to accept it no matter what have stuck with it. And I believe that, honestly, is the number of people that watch the Rampage show on Friday, plus maybe a few extra ones that just might not be able to stay up that late or have shit to do on Friday nights. And the fluctuation of the difference between 750 or 800,000 and 1.2 million is the people who will tune in either because they're already there and they'll give it a chance for a little while to see what's going on, or they tuned in specifically to see how the all-out fallout was going to be handled, the media scrum, or the big hotshot mega card they've promoted, or some wink, wink, surprise or debut. That's their ceiling, 1.2. And that's their sellers, about 750, 800. And there's been no movement in that since the start. So you asked about the ticket sales. It's going to happen. It's not new anymore. It's not new that this other company besides the evil empire once run by Vince McMahon is going to run this big building in my town. They've been here 2 or 3 times now. So maybe I can start picking and choosing, because didn't we say that the first pay-per-view, All In, I said it was the world's largest, history's largest crowdfunding experiment. There were so many people mad at Vince McMahon and the WWE and that company and the way they treated their favorite wrestlers that they wanted to will into existence an opponent, an alternative, a competitor. And those people that were really devoted to see that were willing to put their money where their mouth was. Remember, they sold out instantly, and everybody, oh my God, this has never happened before. That's because it wasn't just the people in Chicago. It was the people from all over the country that were willing to fly there or to get on a bus or drive or take a pilgrimage, whatever. And then for the first pay-per-views, it was the same thing. It was a status symbol. Get the ticket. We'll get there no matter where we got to come from or how hard we have to try. And I said at the time 3 years ago, I said, it's great that they have this devoted fan base that wants to spend any amount of money to get there and to support them. Even if they buy a ticket and they can't show up, they'll still do it because it was crowdfunding. It was a GoFundMe for a do-it-yourself wrestling promotion run by the boys. And then Tony Khan steps in, and one of the reasons why he made these knuckleheads EVPs is because he wanted to keep the crowdfunding aspect, that we're in this together, this is the company that's going to be nice to the wrestlers, and this is the company that's not going to fuck around your favorites. That was part of the strategy. I would say more about that, except my NDA might fucking prevent me.
Can I say something?
Sure.
The crowdfunding thing mentally ends once Tony Khan is in the picture. People understand the money that's in the picture. And, a lot of people made comments about millionaires and billionaires trying to do things before it happened. Go back and check that out. But the people were invested in Cody Rhodes. The people were invested in the Young Bucks, in Kenny Omega. I mean, those were the big guys when AEW first started. People wanted to see what Jericho was going to do. People were ready to see what Moxley was going to do. And now look at where we are. Tony Khan wasn't on that list, by the way, because people didn't know what he sounded like. People didn't know what he really looked like yet.
Right.
Now
the only. I'll go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, now Cody's gone, and we will never be told publicly, or at least it will be a long time, what really went down. But there was a lot of shit that went down. The Young Bucks and Omega are currently gone. According to The Observer, they haven't even heard from anyone in AEW in weeks. We'll see what happens there if and when they come back. Jericho's still there. Moxley's still doing their thing. But now Tony's front and center. And now instead of thinking, this is my company with my wrestlers, you know whose company it is. You know whose project it is. It's all about Tony, for good and for bad. And now that people know that, they look at it differently than they did when it first started up with Omega, the Bucks, and Cody as the faces of the company.
One thing I'll disagree with you on, you said, well, the crowdfunding aspect ended when Tony got involved. No, it didn't. They still were flying to every pay-per-view and snatching up those tickets at the start, but then slowly, yes, people have started to realize, wait a minute, this fucking company, the alternative to the company funded by the billionaire that we hate, this company's funded by a billionaire, ultimately with more money than the billionaire we hated, Tony Khan's father, because Vince don't have the money Shad's got. So my statement, and we can go back and I'm sure it's on the YouTube channel, official Jim Cornette, or wherever it lives. I said, how long can this last? How much money, and for how long can the diehards get a ticket for every pay-per-view and fly to every big event and every all out and all in and this and that? That's starting to wear off, because at some point with anything that is plentiful, you know, when you first get something that you really like and there's not much of it and you've been starved for a while, and boy, here, you're going to make every effort to get that thing. But then it's plentiful and it's available and it's ongoing and you're running lower on money and you got other things going on. That's where you have to use that fan base that you start with to subsist on while you make a bigger fan base, while you expose yourself to a bigger audience, while you try to attract somebody else into the tent. And at least TV viewers, and you would think they'd be easier to get than live event ticket purchasing patrons, nobody else is walking into this tent. It's the same group. And it's about 30% of the group that the WWE has, which is about, a fifth or a sixth of the group that they used to have. So we're fighting for a smaller piece of the pie, but that's the point I'm mentioning. I asked 3 or 4 years ago, I'm saying it now, I believe we're seeing the signs. How long are these people going to be able to fund this thing just to get even with the billionaire, now that the billionaire is already out of the picture and forced into retirement? And the heat's off the WWE with a lot of fans, because it's a new day with a new guy in charge and somebody that gave them the style of wrestling that they wanted, NXT, for a number of years, and has built up some goodwill with them. And now they're willing to give him a chance. Meanwhile, Tony Khan and those big pop eyes of his is the one, instead of being the alternative to the evil billionaire, is now the one that's running the company that, regardless, like you said, of which side of the fence you're on, they're either mad at him because he fucked CM Punk around, or they're mad at him because he fucked around Twinkle Toes and the Hardley Boys. And now, instead of the lavish praise that he gets for bringing Shangri-La to wrestling, Tony pops his head out in his buildings now and he gets booed for that very reason. So I think that's the worm that's turning that we're seeing right now. And they've had 3 years to make a broader audience, not run off their original fans, but complement them. And because he's constantly Mark booked this thing, he can't get anybody except the really devoted Marks that are not fans. They're Marks, and they think like Marks, and he's booking like a Mark. And that's what you get. You get, anytime you let the Marks have a piece of paper and a pencil and the ability to write down wrestlers' names, you get the fattest guy against the other fattest guy, or the tallest guy against the other tallest guy, or fucking 18 people against each other at the same time, and everybody has a goddamn Bowie knife and fucking spurs on, or some ridiculous bullshit that most people are going to go, what the fuck is going on here? This makes no sense. Because they're all looking at wrestling like it's not supposed to make sense. It's just supposed to be a fucking video game of a car wreck. And that's where he's lost all the other people that he's had 3 years to fucking get. But you know what that program did for me, Brian?
No.
It killed my appetite.
Oh, no.
I went to bed without my supper, thanks to that program. But fortunately, I woke up hungry the next day. Because that's a funny thing. You eat one day, you wake up the next day, you're hungry again. It just never ends. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, I usually get hungry every day.
Yeah, it's like my ungrateful wife, Stacy. We've been married now.
Don't say that.
No, we've been married.
Say that
we've been married for almost 15 years. I'll have you know, our anniversary is October 31st, is Halloween. And she's so ungrateful. Ever since we've been married, I've supported her. I put food on her table. I feed her every day. And the next day she turns around and wants to eat again. Nothing about yesterday. Thank you for feeding me yesterday. It's just, what are we going to eat today? It never ends. But I'll tell you what, folks, now we can bring that to an end. You won't want to eat anymore after we tell you about this remarkable new sponsor, because you'll be fixed up for eating. No more will you have to wonder what you're going to eat, where it's going to come from. You might have to wonder how you're going to pay for it. We can't help you there. But the folks at Factor have ready-to-eat meals that are delivered to your door, whether you need a quick lunch, or a nutritious dinner, or a kick lunch, or the lunch that will kick you, or kick lunch, kick the habit, don't have lunch. Whatever you want, lunches, meals, nutritiousness, they're ready in minutes. Factor makes it easy, and it's cheaper than these food delivery programs where they charge you money to bring the food to you, and also they'll dip into your bag and take your fries and etc. We've seen this happen many times. The folks at Factor, they're fresh, never frozen meals. They're delivered ready to heat and eat in 2 minutes. And these things, they're not only never frozen, they're impossible to freeze. Put them in the freezer, they won't freeze. As a matter of fact, at wintertime, you can take these meals and pour them under the tires of your car. It provides excellent traction in snowy weather.
That is not what you should do with these meals, and that's not anything anyone should consider. You should consider eating these delicious meals when they arrive, and they arrive fresh.
Yes, and never frozen. You can't freeze these things. They offer 30-plus meals a week and 36-plus add-on options. Smoothies, juices, and snacks and stuff like that. I'll tell you what, you're going to weigh 5,000 pounds if you eat all these meals. 30 meals a week, plus 36 add-on options. Thankfully, they are committed to ingredients with integrity, and you can feel good about what you're eating here at Factor, because the nutritionists, they've come up with all this. They've got a plan. They've got offerings like Protein Plus. As a matter of fact, the Protein Plus preference that you can pick, see the alliteration there, makes it easy to power up with deliciously satisfying meals with 30 grams of proteins or more. How much is 30 grams in pounds?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know the conversion.
I think most of these dinners have like between 3 and 4 pounds of protein in each one.
No, I wouldn't say that, and I wouldn't promise that, but they certainly have a lot of protein if you choose one of the dishes with protein.
Yes, Protein Plus. They got keto options. That's what Stace is doing right now. They had chili, and they had all kinds of that has protein in it. But it's keto also. See, sometimes you can cross over. You can have your keto and eat your protein too. But Protein Plus, keto meals, calorie smart meals, if you're trying to cut down on the calories. Boy, these calorie smart meals, they're practically empty. You're eating air. Plus vegan and veggie options. Or is it vegan and veggie? We didn't get that straight last week.
No, we got it straight. It's vegan and veggie.
Well, that's what you say. And not only do Factor meals save time, but they also keep you satisfied, folks. I don't know about sexually, but certainly calorically, and it'll make your tummy feel good. The chef-crafted recipes are packed with restaurant-quality flavor. But it's been booted out of the restaurant, and now it's in the dish that's delivered to your door. And more free time instead of spending precious hours hustling around the store, trying to get the ingredients, shoplifting all that stuff, trying to get it up under your petticoat or in the crotch of your jeans, and then bringing it home to make the meals in your kitchen. Well, you can eliminate all that, the meal making, the cooking, the shoplifting, everything, and the cleanup time, if some of you actually clean up after your meals. You don't have to do any of that with Factor. You just eat the thing and then throw the container away. They got everything you need. Again, right now, and you'll need a pen and paper, folks, because we're going to give you some very difficult to understand information. To figure in on Factor, to get these ready to eat meals, or you can meet the meals if you want to. You can be introduced to them anytime they come to your home. As a matter of fact, the UPS guy will probably say, "Hi, Joe, meet broccoli," things like that. You'll be introduced to them. Head right now to go.factor, FACTOR 75.com/JCE130 and use the code JCE130 to get $130 off.
Wow.
Across 6 boxes of Factor. That's the important part. You get $130 off. The other stuff, so you got to write down numerous letters and numerals. Head to go.factor75.com/JCE130. Use the code JCE130 to get $130 off across 6 boxes of Factor with all these delicious meals, no matter what style you're eating. Again, keto-friendly, calorie-smart, the vegan and the veggie, the protein plus.
Yes.
They've even got they've got meals if you like Dalmatian. They've got something for everybody.
No, they don't. They do have all. We're so close to the end. Everything's going well, relatively, and then you pull this out. Dalmatian.
Well, I like Dalmatians. They're cute puppies, but they got something at Factor for everybody. Depends on what country you're ordering from. Sometimes the standards are a little more lax than others. But right now, folks, head to go.factor75.com/JCE130 and use the code JCE130 to get $130 off across 6 boxes of delicious Factor food. Factor it in to your daily schedule.
Don't forget, it's delicious.
It's delicious, and it's easy, and it's cheaper than Uber Eats and takeout and all those type of things. Stuff yourself.
That's right. Factor. What's that website one more time, Jim? For everyone out there with their pen and paper?
Go.factor75.com/JCE130. Use the code JCE130.
All right.
Well, what's going on in the world of wrestling that we haven't talked about on this program? I guess we got to stay up with the wrestling news. What's going on over there?
Another action-packed week on the Arcadian Vanguard Podcast Network, and of course with the wrestling news available wherever you find your favorite podcasts, including Amazon. Just ask Alexa, play the Wrestling News podcast, and it'll pop right up. But wherever you find your favorite podcast or at the Wrestling
Alexa
News,
doesn't do a lot of the things that I ask her to do.
What do you ask her to do?
Well, I can't really talk about that right now, but she won't do most of them.
Well, after the police raid, you'll find out more about that on the Wrestling News, wherever you find your favorite podcasts. Of course, thewrestlingnews.com. Every day, a free daily morning wrestling newscast. No opinion, no conjecture, no bias. Just giving you straight wrestling news. No clickbait, no paywall, just the wrestling news. Check it out each and every day and subscribe today. And of course, videos of the wrestling news available on the Arcadian Vanguard video channel on YouTube. Once again, thewrestlingnews.com, or available wherever you find your favorite podcasts. Want to make mention of this week on Stick to Wrestling with John McAdam. It is a deep dive look at 1982 Georgia. Roddy Piper, Ric Flair, Ole Anderson, Jerry Lawler, and so much more. Hear it at McAdamPod.com, available wherever you find your favorite podcasts. And of course, the 605 Superpodcast, The Mothership! I'm pretty sure I just woke up someone. Go through the archive today at 605pod.com, available wherever you find your favorite podcasts. And don't forget, get information about all Arcadian Vanguard shows on Twitter at Superpodcast or on Facebook, facebook.com/Arcadian Vanguard for news about all shows, including The Mothership. I can't do it. The second time would have been too much.
Yeah. First time was a little much anyway.